So next we're going to start with the most important topic, that is arrays. So what are arrays? Arrays are basically the collection of similar data types. So it means that it's like if something we are storing inside a collection, if we are storing the numbers inside collections, it should be of the integer types only, right? It should not be of a string type. And if we are storing the string type values, then it should be only string type values. So the values inside the array, the collection, should be of a similar data types only, right? So this is the very first point to remember. So the second point is that each variable in an array is known as array element. So whatever that you are storing will becomes as an array element if it is inside an array. So each variable of an array is referenced by a particular integer number, which is known as array index. So if there are 10 values inside an array, so each will be represented by a particular array index. So the total number of variable in array decides the length of an array. So if there are 10 values inside an array, so the array length should be 10. And the first index, if you look at this diagram over here, the first index of an array always starts from 0. So the first value is stored at the 0th index of an array. And same way, the 9th value will be stored at the 8th index of an array, right? And the last value will be the length of an array minus 1. So if the indexes are 0 to 9, it means that there are 10 values and the last index will be 10 minus 1, that is 9. So this is like the length of the array minus 1. So let us now see the syntax of arrays. So what I'm gonna do, I'll gonna create a new package for arrays. And first let us understand one dimensional array, and then we're gonna look at the multi-dimensional part as well. So array, I'll name it as 1D. So if I talk about the syntax of an array, so in Java, arrays are nothing but they are objects, right? So objects, as in order to initiate arrays, you need to create an object of an array, as in you'll be doing how the object of an array will be created. This will be created with the help of a new keyword itself. And in case of arrays are something like this: square brackets. So wherever you see square brackets, you can assume that this is basically an array. And every array must have some type. So if it is of int type, or if it is of a string type, so what values that will it gonna hold, right? So in case you are defining an array, you first need to create an object of an array by saying new array, something like this. And then we need to define the type. So this will be like integer type, and this is mandatory to define the length of this array, the index over here. So let's say if the array is holding like 10 values, so it has to be something like this, new int 10. And along with this, there has to be a reference created that is something like array equal to new this. And here we'll be defining again the type. The type will be of int. So int, this has to be an array type, right? The array, as in whenever we are defining the reference, we need to provide an array either here, like we need to do something like this. So this is the complete statement. So either you can give it over here or you can give it over here. So normally in the standards, we actually, in the coding standards, we follow it over here. So this is the complete statement of how we actually define arrays in Java. So arrays are basically objects in Java, right? In order to create an array, you need to create an object of an array, right? And this can be of a string type as well. If in case you are creating for string type, it will be string, let's say my array equal to new string, and then provide how many values that the string array will gonna hold. Let's say I provide the value as 13. All right, and now if in case you try to print this array name, so what it will gonna print, it is not going to print this array, it is just going to print the address of this array. So if I run this, you're gonna see some garbage value like this. This is basically the address where this array object is actually created. And once you have defined the length of an array, it will become static. So if you are storing string values, and if you define the length of the string as 13, then it will become static. The length becomes static. It will only going to hold 13 values, not more than that, right? Same way, if the length of this integer array is 10, it will gonna store 10 values. So this is what is in array. The length of an array is static. It will not gonna change. And the other thing that we have discussed, if we are giving the index as 5 over here, then how this will be, like if I show you it in the form of a diagram. So this is how the array will look like. So there will be 5 index that will be created. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right, so each index will gonna contain one array element. So if the index is 5, with 5 is basically the length of this array, right? So it should hold 5 values only. So this is static. Now the very first value of an array index always starts from 0. So 0, and the last one, if there are 5 elements, the last index should be 4. This is common with all anything that works with indexes. The index in all programming languages always starts from 0, right? And if you're talking about the 5th element, that is at the 4th index of an array. Now in case if you got some array and you want to find how many values are stored inside an array, let's say for this particular array we are storing 13 values. So if you want to find the length of this array, then you can simply gonna write my array dot length, and if you run this, it will gonna show you 13. Same way, if you do it for the initial one, array dot length, which holds 5 value, if you run this, you're gonna see the answer as 5 over here. So this is how you can check how many values are there inside an array. You can check the length of an array. Now if I ask you, what is this length over here? Is this length a method or what? No, this is not a method. If like we have been studying Java since long time, right? So we know that with method, let's say there's a method something like add, we always add parentheses with the method, right? So with the method name, we always add parentheses. So when we are calling it's not like always method will gonna return you a value. A variable also returns you a value. It's like if I explain you the architecture of this array class, how this is defined. So it's something like public class array, and inside this class you have public int length. So there's a variable that returns a numeric value, that is the length of that array, and this variable is basically having a final keyword, right? So final keyword, as in if I talk about this final keyword can be added. Keyword can be added with the method, can be added with the variable, and can be added with the class. Now if it is added with the variable, then the value of that variable becomes constant, means it will never gonna change. So if it is added with the length variable, so whatever value that we are defining will not gonna change. So that's the reason why we say that the length of the array is always fixed. If it is added with method, then method cannot be like we cannot override that method, right? So what is overriding? We're gonna look at it in the OOPS concepts, where we're gonna discuss about overloading and overriding. And if this thing is added with a class, so the class cannot be inherited, so no one can inherit that particular class, right? So this is what how the length variable it actually looks like. So length is not a method, it is basically a variable that is defined inside the array class. So finally, this length is not a method, this is a final variable, right? And which makes this array as fixed in size, right? So due to final, we cannot change the length of an array on the runtime once a length is already defined, once a length is already assigned, right? Now if I print this array, what it will gonna print me? So let's say if I go over here and just a moment. If I print this array and if I run this, so right now there is nothing stored inside in this array, and when I'm printing this array, this is basically a reference variable. So this will gonna just print the address of that array, right? Now before we start printing items from array, we first need to store the items as well inside array. So how are we gonna store this? So if the length of an array is 5, so we're gonna start storing it from the very first index, that is the 0th index. So I'm gonna say array 0 equal to, and I'm gonna store the very first value like 10. Now you need to make sure the whatever the return type, the type that you have defined, if you have defined the type as integer, you'll be storing only the numeric values, right? You cannot store string values, otherwise you're gonna get compile time error. If I try to store hello, you'll see that it is throwing me a compile time error, that mismatch cannot convert from string to int, right? So you need to make sure that the similar type of values should be stored in each array index. Now same way I can add other values to different indexes. I can say 2 equal to 20 and array index 4 equal to 30, right? And when I want to print the values, I'll gonna say something like array of the second index, and I'm gonna print it like this, and you can see the value from the second index is printed, right? Now if I want to you can see I have not stored any value in the first and the third index. So if I try to print all the values, how to print all the values from the indexes of an array, you'll simply saying you'll be running a loop which should start from the index 0 and should run less than equal to 5. So it should not be less than equal to 5, because less than equal to 5 means that we are starting from 0 and we are running up till 5, right? So fifth index is not included, it's like less than equal to 4, or you can say less than 5. And even you should not hard code this 5 value over here, so you can get it with the help of array dot length and then say index plus plus, and within this you can print array and index. So if I save this and run it, you're gonna see it will gonna print all the values starting from here. This we have printed the second index. If I run this now, you're gonna see starting from here till here. And you can see where we have not assigned the values, it is actually printing 0 for that particular index, right? This is because we are storing integer value, and by default value of integer is 0. If you store double values, then by default, if you don't assign any value, it will gonna print 00. Same way, if you store string values and if you don't assign any value, then it will gonna print null. So by default value of an integer is 0. So that's the reason it is actually printing the value as 0, right? So now instead of assigning the value one by one, we can assign it directly inside the for loop and then can print it as well. So if I let me comment out this code. So I can also assign the value directly from within this for loop by saying array and then store the indexes. I mean, each index we're gonna assign some random values. So random values I can generate it with the help of a class called math and the method random. And this I'm gonna get numbers up till 3 digit, and we're gonna convert it into int, something like this, right? So this will gonna generate some random numbers, and we're gonna have 5 indexes, 0 till 4, and all the numbers will be stored at each index. So if I print this array index, if I run this, you're gonna see these are the 5 numbers generated, right? Now instead of printing it with this for loop, I can even print it outside the for loop with the help of some another loop which is more effective and a very simple loop called as for each loop. Now if I talk about the syntax of for each loop, in for each loop the syntax is like we need to write a colon over here. At the right hand side, you need to add that particular array. You need to define the type of that array, what sort of values are there inside this array. So this is of an int type, and then you need to create a variable which will gonna store the values from each indexes of that array. So this loop will gonna run at each index of this array, and the value will be stored at this variable. So if in case you want to print this variable, you can simply print var, and if I run this now, you're gonna see that all the values are printed over here, right? So all the random numbers are generated and printed like this. So the only drawback of this loop is that it will only gonna print values like it will gonna print straightforward values only. Like it will not gonna print any value which is you cannot print array in the reverse order in case of this loop. In case of for each loop, it will only gonna print forward values. As in case you want to print reverse values, you cannot do that using this, because in reverse you need to tell that you need to start from the last index and then go up till the 0th index. So as in case you want to print how to print reverse order, so I'll say printing in reverse order. So in case you want to print in reverse order, you want to start the loop from index equal to array dot length -1. Start it from here, and it should go index greater than equal to 0, right? And then it should do I minus minus, and inside it you're gonna print array index. So if I run this now, just okay, here I need to give index. So if I run this now, you're gonna see this is the first value and this is the reverse order, right? So this is how you can print in reverse order as well, right? But you need to you cannot do that with using this for each loop. You have to do it with the simple for loop where you actually define the indexes, right? Now there's another way of creating a 1D array in a hard-coded way, something like I can create an array int of an array1 equal to, and I can directly assign the values over here. So directly assign the values as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 indexes and which contain 5 values, right? If in case you want to print the length of this array, so you can simply say array1 dot length, and you're going to see the result as 5. But we should never do it like this, because this is like we are hard coding, we are fixing the values over here, right? We should be assigning the values on the runtime like we did it over here, right? So this is where we are assigning it on the runtime, this is where we are assigning it on the runtime. But if I talk about this array, then the values are fixed, the index is fixed, that is always in case of an array, but here the values are also fixed. Right, so this is all about 1D array. In the next example, we're gonna look at the 2D array, that is the two-dimensional array, right? So that's all in this lecture.